Conference, good afternoon. I've just seen the title of the speech I'm giving today. In my enthusiasm to accept, I should have actually read the title before I wrote the script. But we are where we are, and I will be going on to talk about veterans, but a few wider matters as well. Ladies and gentlemen, we gather today with great turbulence in this world. Major economies slide, state-on-state conflict exists in Europe, nations compete for resources, and the list of opponents who would challenge our way of life grows longer. Someone once said, you can have peace or you can have freedom. You can't count on having both. But I would say, while we feel the storm winds blow strongly against us, this nation does go about its daily business. And it can do so because our skies are guarded by the Royal Air Force, our sea lines of trade are patrolled by the Royal Navy, and in dangerous lands, the British Army builds security stability. Society sleeps at night because they do what they do. They are understandably the envy of the world. Yet for all the power and resources of those extraordinary organisations, somewhere close to this building, on a street corner, will be a soldier, sailor or airman who is living in cold and lonely solitude, possibly without a place to sleep, left adrift by society and overlooked by our burdened public services, unequipped and unable to adjust to civilian life. These veterans, who have served their country with experiences that we would rarely ask a civilian undertake, live silently amongst us. Ladies and gentlemen, why do I paint a picture of military excellence from our services, but deface it with an image of neglect and sadness? Because I will tell you this, if we wish to maintain the preeminence of our armed forces, then this country has work to do. A long line of governments, while happy to bask in reflected glory and take credit for success, have cynically and consistently taken them for granted. They have raided their budgets, cutting vital equipment and pushing replacement systems far into the future. They have trimmed and whittled away at the terms and conditions of service personnel, neglecting their housing, leaving their families at the mercy of NHS and school queues. And then, shamelessly, they rely upon them when other areas of public policy fail, exploiting their organisation and skills when ambulances need driving, floods need stemming, fires need extinguishing, hospitals built and staffed and operated, and petrol tankers need driving. The excellence we admire, and seen most recently in that magnificent display of loyalty and dignity at the funeral of Her late Majesty the Queen, this excellence we admire is fragile and has been caused by a constant stream of steady defence and security reviews. 9 in 30 years. 9. We had 4 in the 50 years before that. All of those reviews have taken the armed forces in only one direction. And it's all been about balancing government books and accounts. The result? A force made smaller, but with operational tasks and standing commitments that continue to steadily increase. And right now, the equipment programme, which the military rely upon completely, is underfunded and hollowed out. Organisational turbulence leaves our frontline commands with unbalanced formations and in a state of permanent transition. People policies struggle with recruitment, personal development. And then the worst failing that I can describe, the failing that shamefully neglects service personnel who transition back into civilian life, too many of them joining the back of an unfortunate welfare line. In short, ladies and gentlemen, that defence works, that we are as safe as we are, is more often not in spite of government and the MOD than because of it. Conference, I spent 24 years in uniform as a soldier before turning to journalism and writing, and I was privileged to lead soldiers, airmen, sailors and Marines during extraordinary times. And as I look across this audience, I feel already there are a number of sandbags which wish to come up onto the stage and join me in some war stories. I feel extremely pleased that Richard has asked me to lead development of the party's national defence and security policy, and I look forward to this challenge, and I will pursue it with vigour. But let me set out my stall with a reality check. We are witnessing change, not just in our own national defence, but that of the West in general. NATO is enlarging. Its mission is adapting. A continental war threatens to expand. China's military strength and assertiveness grows rapidly, and the asymmetric threat from non-state actors continues to threaten us, often from within our own borders. And warfare itself is changing in character and technology. Now, it's true the government has increased defence spending and has promised, if it lasts long enough to do so, to spend more. But spending more is only part of the problem. In 1937, as war clouds began to gather over Europe, a then Brigadier Montgomery said in that magnificent and riveting read of the Sapper Journal, the Royal Engineers Journal, "We have got to learn new methods and develop new techniques, and not simply continue to do things as they have been done before." And unfortunately, most of that is exactly how it looks at the moment. Business is done more or less as it has always been done so. So I would suggest that our policy choices towards defence and wider security must be bold and not accept the status quo that was inherent in all of those defence reviews that I mentioned. But they must be credible, and they must reflect the nature of the operational environment, the emerging technology, and our available industrial capacity. We should not scamper down the path, for example, of the Scottish nationalists, with fantasy defence planning more designed to defend Brigadoon than Scotland. What this party, a party which seeks to become a political force, can offer is to set the conditions for success. Success in sustaining and growing our armed forces. And let me illustrate with a couple of emerging ideas how we might do that. First, we have an equipment plan, which many years ago I used to be in charge of. Then it was under control, but let's move on. We must make sure that this equipment plan is brought more under control and that the hollowness is filled in. We must specify and programme with realism, be less ambitious and overly optimistic. We must stop propping up some parts of the UK industry with defence projects because we want the industry and we don't care about the projects. We must professionalise and tighten our procurement effort. All of that is a long-term task. In time, it would bring back under control the equipment plan, and it would also begin to reinvigorate and revitalise our defence and technology industry base. But ladies and gentlemen, let me turn back to that veteran who's sitting on the street somewhere close to this building right now. He's wandering, perhaps unwell from some trauma received on operations. Who at the moment does that veteran turn to? His unit? Old colleagues? Maybe he can turn to the excellent service charities. Certainly there will be help in all of those organisations. But they are not equipped and skilled to operate at the institutional level. They support the individual. And ladies and gentlemen, I would put it to this conference that with a defence expenditure that is the fourth largest in the world, the only organisation whose job it is to look after veterans is the government. Scandalously, as we heard from Richard earlier, Veterans Affairs has been once again shunted away into some more dusty corner of the MOD. There they share space with married quarters allocations, low-flying complaints, and we suspect that they rest just above UFOs on the ministerial list of priorities. I once sat in a Ministry of State's meeting. I was not in uniform, but I was the only serving officer there. And I heard a civil servant give me their view on some subject, and I quote, "It's not the people that matter, it's the capability," unquote. Now I can see that you're all a delicate, shy, retiring bunch of individuals, so I won't relate my response to that particular civil servant's comments. But what on earth did these people think capability is made of if it's not the people? And it doesn't have to be this way. So let me explore briefly with you an alternative. Why not create a completely new ministry, a separate government department, one with cabinet rank? Governments do it when they feel like it. Take the resources and responsibilities, not just from the MOD, but from all relevant departments across government. Give it a cross-government remit to coordinate and champion veterans' affairs, all of it. Not just support those veterans who are down on their luck, but all of those who are moving on to new careers and new lives. A powerful focus to champion the civilian lives of all those that served, and think how many people that is and what skills they have. And wait, it can be more than just simply an organisation that coordinates veteran support. Let's use that ministry and its influence to turn the rich seam of potential our veteran community has into a force that adds real value, rather than have it linger tacked onto the rear of a welfare line. Think of what talents a ministry could channel into areas of employment and what cross-cutting influence it could bring. Now, we have just heard a view on crime and order, and I wonder whether I here am the only one, and I've got to admit, here I am hoping that the woke fringe meeting is somewhere else and still in session. Who believes if the choice were given to the public that they prefer to police their streets and face down knife crime, would they prefer? A 22-year-old graduate with a degree in something from a university of anywhere, but equipped with their own personal face paint kit and some funky YouTube moves? Or would they prefer that ex-Royal Marine commando with 2 combat tours of Afghanistan behind him? I think we all know the answer. We sleep safely at night because rough men stand ready to deal with those who would harm us. Anyone know who said that? It was Churchill. And I misquote him slightly, but I think the rest of the remarks should remain unsaid. But let me end with a final quote from a favourite hero of mine, the American General George Patton. He said, "No army is better than its soldiers." And the message I want to leave all of you with is this. I do believe that our nation's soldiers, sailors, airmen and marines are the best in the world. I want to make sure that everyone else knows that as well. I want them to have the tools to confront the king's enemies wherever they challenge us. And when those people who provide that service, when they finally unlace their boots for the final time, I think we as a grateful nation should reward them with proper support for their sacrifice. Conference, ladies and gentlemen, who could possibly disagree with that? Thank you very much.